Today our topic is what Plato would say about today's society. Imagine if Plato, the great philosopher from ancient Greece, could step into our world today. What would he think about how we live, how we think, and the choices we make? Plato lived over 2,000 years ago, but his ideas about life, justice, and human behavior are still relevant. If he were here, he would probably have a lot to say about the way we live now. Let's explore this idea and see what lessons we can learn from his wisdom. First, Plato would likely be amazed by the technology we have today. In his time, people communicated through speech, writing, and simple tools. Today, we have smartphones, the internet, and social media. These tools connect us in ways Plato could never have imagined. But he might also warn us about the dangers of relying too much on technology. Plato believed that true knowledge comes from deep thinking and understanding, not just from information. He might say that while technology is useful, it can also distract us from asking important questions about life, like what is justice? Or what does it mean to live a good life? He would encourage us to use technology wisely and not let it control our minds or our time. Plato was also very concerned about justice and how societies are organized. In his famous work, The Republic, he describes an ideal society where everyone has a role based on their abilities. He believed that leaders should be wise and virtuous, not just powerful or rich. If Plato saw today's society, he might be disappointed by how often people in power make decisions based on money or personal gain, rather than what is best for everyone. He would likely criticize the inequality we see in the world, where some people have so much while others struggle to survive. Plato would remind us that a just society is one where everyone has a fair chance, and where leaders work for the common good, not just for themselves. Another thing Plato would notice is how much we value material things. In our society, people often measure success by how much money they have, how big their house is, or what kind of car they drive. But Plato believed that true happiness comes from within, not from material possessions. He thought that the most important thing in life is to develop a good character and to live with wisdom, courage, and self-control. He would probably tell us that chasing after money and things will never make us truly happy. Instead, we should focus on becoming better people and helping others. This is a lesson that many of us need to hear today, as we often get caught up in the pursuit of wealth and forget about what really matters. Plato also had strong opinions about education. He believed that education is not just about learning facts or skills, but about becoming a better person. In his ideal society, education would teach people to think critically, to question everything, and to seek the truth. If Plato saw our education system today, he might be concerned that it focuses too much on tests and grades and not enough on helping students develop their minds and characters. He would encourage us to think of education as a way to grow as human beings, not just as a way to get a job or make money. He would want us to ask big questions about life and to never stop learning. One of Plato's most famous ideas is the allegory of the cave. In this story, he describes people who are chained in a cave, facing a wall. They can only see shadows on the wall, which they think are real. But one day, someone escapes the cave and sees the real world outside. This story is a metaphor for how we often live in ignorance, believing that the things we see and experience are all there is. Plato would say that many people today are like the prisoners in the cave. We are so focused on our daily lives, our jobs, and our screens that we don't see the bigger picture. He would encourage us to break free from the cave of ignorance and to seek the truth about ourselves and the world. This means questioning our beliefs, challenging our assumptions, and being open to new ideas. Plato was also a big believer in the power of philosophy. He thought that philosophy could help us live better lives by teaching us how to think clearly and how to understand the world. In today's society, philosophy is often seen as something abstract or irrelevant, but Plato would disagree. He would say that philosophy is more important than ever because it helps us deal with the big questions in life. Questions like what is the meaning of life, or how should we treat each other, are just as important today as they were in Plato's time. He would encourage us to study philosophy and to use it as a tool for understanding ourselves and the world around us. Another thing Plato would notice about today's society is how divided we are. We often see people arguing over politics, religion, or social issues, and these arguments can become very hostile. Plato believed that dialogue and discussion are the best ways to solve problems and find the truth. He would probably be saddened by how often people today refuse to listen to each other or to consider different points of view. He would encourage us to have more respectful and open conversations, where we try to understand each other instead of just trying to win the argument. This is especially important in a world where social media often amplifies anger and division. Plato also had a lot to say about the role of art and culture in society. He believed that art should inspire us to be better people and to think about important ideas. If Plato saw some of the art and entertainment we have today, he might be concerned that much of it is shallow or focused on violence and greed. He would want us to create and support art that challenges us to think deeply and that reflects the best of human nature. This doesn't mean that all art has to be serious or intellectual, but it should have a purpose beyond just entertaining us or making money. Finally, Plato would remind us of the importance of self-reflection. He believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. In today's busy world, it's easy to get caught up in work, social media, and other distractions and never take the time to think about who we are and what we want from life. Plato would encourage us to set aside time for self-reflection, to ask ourselves tough questions, and to strive to become the best versions of ourselves. This is not always easy, but it is essential if we want to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. In conclusion, if Plato were alive today, he would have a lot to say about our society. He would challenge us to think more deeply, to care about justice and equality, and to focus on what really matters in life. He would remind us that true happiness comes from within, and that we should strive to live with wisdom, courage, and compassion. His ideas may be ancient, but they are still very relevant in today's world. By learning from Plato, we can become better individuals and create a better society for everyone. So let's take his advice to heart and work towards a life of meaning, purpose, and virtue.